Clear Global's work raised the proportion of people who are able to get information they understand from 31% to 83% in Northeast Nigeria. We recently commissioned an evaluation of our work in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states in Northeast Nigeria, and that's a quote from the report. I don't often talk about the work of Clear Global when I do these videos, but not only am I really proud of the work we do, this is also one of the few reports I've seen that looks at what happens when social impact organizations take language into account in their work. Top line, my takeaways: it can help build trust. It can help people to understand and engage with complex issues, and it can ease the burden on frontline workers. The people we interviewed said that frontline workers had raised language issues with their managers, but in the absence of any solution to the problem, those managers hadn't raised it with decision makers. And this is still a problem around the world. Until people hear about the work of Clear Global and Translators Without Borders, they don't know how to overcome the language issues. There are two other things that I thought were really interesting in the report. One was an organization that said the women they worked with, as a result of our translations and the recordings, were better able to articulate their rights. They were also much more confident in decision-making and engaging in decision-making, and were much better aware of their value to society. Like goosebumps, right? Another interesting thing in the evaluation: the government of Nigeria was rolling out national identity cards. To get an ID card, you had to go in with your documentation. People who had fled their homes and were displaced didn't have that documentation, so ICLA was working with them to register. At the beginning of the program, they were really struggling to get people to register. So they worked with us to simplify the messaging and the bureaucratic processes so that people could understand them, translate them into local languages, and then do pictorial work, pictorials of how that process works. ICLA put them on billboards, and as a result, they were inundated with people coming to register. Thousands of people came to register, and that meant they could expand their program, and they got a bigger grant to do that work, and more people were registered. The evaluation also looked at some of the longer-term impacts. So 95% of the people interviewed said that at least some of the changes made as a result of Clear Global's work were still being implemented, and about half of those said that most or all of the changes were still being implemented. They pointed to things like glossaries that they still refer to, translations that are still useful, and pictorial work that are still being used and referred to by the community. In addition, they said that recruitment processes had changed as a result of our work. Not only were managers aware of what languages they needed to be working in, they knew what languages their team spoke and were actively recruiting to fill the gaps in languages in their team. Now, while Clear Global has had to significantly reduce the scope of our work in Northeast Nigeria as a result of funding cuts, and that has meant that the scale and quality of multilingual communication has reduced, the work that we have done has still been transformative. And that's what's interesting.